Hello, this is issue 2 of the Lord of the Rings The Card Game, a UK magazine subscription. Please go check out issue 1 if you haven't already, and let's get on with it. So this is what you get in issue 2. As you can see, we've got the pack of cards with a gold finish Aragorn, and we also get a piece of card with some tokens on it and probably a playing area. But this is what I kind of alluded to in issue 1, where it asks you to cut the tokens out. I think this is probably what you get on the backing card for the magazine on issue 1. And then here we have the magazine itself. This is Aragorn's quest to hunt for Gollum as it plays out in the books, where Gandalf goes off and tells the story to Frodo of how he's discovered that he's in danger. And looking on the front here, it says about we get a special double-sided Gollum card. Looking at the artwork, some of you might be able to guess where this has come from, but I'll cover that later. And as it says here, we've got a new adventure and some rules for combat which weren't covered in the previous issue. So here we have the contents page, which just shows you a little bit of issue 3 and 4 again. And then on this side we've got the Mystery of the Ring, which is the adventure hunting for Gollum, where they find a little bit more about what the ring is actually about. So on to the next page here, you can see it just shows you how to set out the staging area again and the specifics for this. It shows you how many progress tokens that you need to place and the extra card to give Aragorn at the start of this adventure. It also gives you an idea of the player deck that you need to use, even though I found it a bit confusing to set up, because here it shows that we've got 3 sneak attack cards that need to go in, but looking at all the cards that you get so far from issue 1 and issue 2, you don't actually get 3 sneak attacks. And another thing as well, as you see later on, there seems to be a mismatch between what you're meant to be drawing and what the magazine actually says. So here, starting the game, it talks about combat and the idea behind engagement and damage, and also resolving attacks. So unlike issue 1, we have this adventure themed around location cards and also the act of travelling to a location. This adventure is kind of giving you the idea of deciding between whether you should attack or whether you should actually make progress towards a location. And because there isn't any actual progress to be made on a quest itself, it is using the location cards to complete each step of the adventure. So here we have a travel box that just explains that once you've completed your questing stage, you then get to choose whether or not to travel to a location, and then on your next turn that location is now become active, and it means that when you quest successfully, any difference between willpower and threat, if your willpower is higher than your threat, it means that that progress is then made towards the active location. And then here we've just got the basics of combat, which explains that the enemy attacks first, and then you exhaust a defender to defend against that attack. And then once the attack is complete, you then get to choose an attacker to then deal damage to that enemy. So then once that's complete, we're on to turn 3, which is explaining that you obviously drawing another resource token for Aragorn and then drawing a new card, and it explains what that card is. And then it's saying that when you draw from the encounter deck, we've got signs of Gollum that will appear, and that just explains as part of this adventure what that is. And then, yeah, as you can see here, it's got the guarded keyword, which just explains that once you've drawn this objective card, you then want to draw another card from the encounter deck, which is then attached to this Signs of Gollum card, and that is the guardian, as it were, of that objective, and you need to clear whatever's attached to that to then claim that card. So here we have turn 4, which is the East Bank, and it's just explaining that because we don't have any locations that we've travelled to yet, there's no point in committing any characters to a quest just because there's no point, there'd be no progress made or anything. So the idea is that on this turn you'll be travelling to the East Bank to then make progress on it for the next turn. And then here it's just explaining the combat phase again with a Misty Mountain Goblin and how that would play out. So here we're on to turn 5, which is just showing you what your playthrough should look like at the moment if you've been following it. Now here it does explain, which got me confused a little bit. It says about playing Dundane Warning from your hand to attach it, but from the previous steps of what I can see, you shouldn't even have that card in your hand yet, so I'm not quite sure what that's about. So here, this box is just explaining about when to travel, because certain locations have some nasty effects in their text box, and it's just saying that basically when you travel to this location you're treating attachment cards as blank, which isn't very helpful when you're wanting to make progress on a location. So here we have Ammon Law, turn 6. This is just giving you an idea of what decisions you need to make now in terms of whether you should be committing to quests or preparing cards for combat, because remember, if you commit a character to a quest, it becomes exhausted unless there's a way to ready it like there is with Aragorn. But if you end up committing too many characters to a quest and an enemy comes out, then you might have no one to attack or defend with, which is not what you want. So here we have just another couple of turns that carry out in this stage, and then here is just what your playthrough should look like. So it looks quite complicated at the moment. We've got quite a lot of attachments and a couple of allies, and here we've got some signs of Gollum that have been collected as part of the quest. So just on to the final part of the adventure. So then here we've just got the last few turns that play out, and then you end up finding the last signs for Gollum and revealing the Gollum card himself. And then the last page here is just explaining the backstory behind it all, about how Gollum was captured by the enemy before you were able to get to him, which then led him to be tortured and then lead the enemy towards the Shire. Okay, and then the last couple of pages. And then same as before, we've just got choose your own path, so it's saying about making different decisions within the adventure to see how it plays out, and then shuffling both decks to make it more interesting. You also, of course, can now build a custom deck, and it's saying just keep to the card limit of 20 just to make it more interesting. And then on the right hand side, as I said before, we've got normally the last couple of pages are just information about the rules and reminders of things. So here we have the hero cards and ally cards, and then a breakdown of what everything is on the cards. So yeah, it's just showing things that haven't been explained yet, such as threat cost, and setting that on your threat dial before you start an adventure. And then onto the back page, we've just got attachment cards and event cards and just explaining what they're about. So yeah, that's the magazine. As you can see, it's got your holes in it and the glue down the side to add it into your collection. So let's take a look at the cards now. So here we have the cards that come with it, and we've got the Aragorn in the foil finish, which is same as what you get in the core set. Looking very nice. And just a few player cards this time to just support the adventure that's in issue 2. Guardian of Honor, Song of Travel, which wasn't really used in that adventure for some reason. You get Celebrian Stone, which adds the spirit icon onto Aragorn, so maybe a slight oversight including that. And then here we have the encounter cards. So we've got Smeagol, which is from the Land of Shadow Saga expansion. I'd want to include, maybe just because it's double-sided and more interesting than some of the other Gollum cards. And then we've got the Return to Mirkwood cards, and then the Hunt for Gollum cards as well. So let's just have a quick flick through. Yeah, so these ones, the actual locations they've taken from the hills of Emyn. And then that's that really. So yeah, interesting issue really. It has a bit of a longer adventure, just introduces you to the combat, and then there were a few odd quirks in the adventure in terms of drawing player cards, which I couldn't quite understand when I was going through it. But apart from that, it was interesting enough from a story point of view. So yeah, if there's any feedback or anything, just let us know in the comments down below. Cheers!